Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Alex with Unprofessional Gun Opinions, and today I'll be discussing my current setup for the upcoming Barry Steel Open match in April. So, typically for a big match like Barry's, which is going to be about 18 stages, they release the round count at 561 rounds, I'd be running my current carry optic setup, which is a Glock 45 with an Aimpoint Acro P2, especially if I really wanted to take this match seriously. But my competition shooting partner, KK Wesson, bullied me into taking a retro gun out of my reference collection to run it in a big match. And I hemmed and hawed and wasn't quite sure if I was going to do it, but then I decided, yeah, I should do it. And I selected this Smith & Wesson 1066 3rd Gen in 10mm auto to go ahead and run that match with. This gun is unloaded for all you RSOs on my in my comments section. Quick facts about this gun: these were produced in the early 90s. There's only about 5,000 in circulation. It's 9 rounds, single stack, 10mm auto. It has a 4.5-inch barrel, and it's related to the more famous Smith & Wesson 1076, which was the FBI contract gun. The only difference between those two is this gun has a slide-mounted decocker, where the FBI model has a frame-mounted arrangement. That was specifically for the FBI contract. I picked this gun because it's probably one of the more reliable retro guns in my pistol collection. I thought about running my Steyr GB. That thing's really cool, but it has too many quirks. The slide release is a little too loose in the frame on how it sits, and basically if I brush it at all while I'm running it, it will lock the gun open no matter how much ammunition I have left in it, and I do not want to be dealing with that on a big stage. So this gun is a much more reliable choice. Even though it has some quirks of its own, it does shoot fairly low with how the bore axis is and how the sights are arranged. Basically, I'm holding at the top of the target to get good hits at ranges past 5 yards. The other thing is that these guns were recalled early in their history for the grips. Smith & Wesson used an inferior plastic on these guns, on their grips, and if you dropped them or hit them on something, the grip would shatter, and it would basically break the mainspring and everything inside. This gun, thankfully, was part of the recall, and it has the newer grips on it. However, when it comes to the magazines, I have a bunch. Well, by a bunch, I mean I have 6 mags, which is a lot for this gun, saying that they're about $150 a piece. But these early gen mags, where they have the yellow follower, Smith & Wesson used the recall plastic on them, is what I've been finding out. You notice this one is cracked here. So if I drop these or do anything with them, the base plates crack, especially on my early gen mags. So I've been slowly replacing the base plates with these aftermarket metal ones, which these have worked way better. I've also been swapping new magazine springs in, using Wolf Extra Power ones, just to give that little extra bit of reliability out. When it comes to running this gun in a practical setting, it also has some big challenges. One, that it's single stack. It's always hard to run anything with low capacity in modern big matches because they're all built for high capacity guns like PCCs and carry optic setups where you're allowed 145mm mags and things like that. So really have to, when you do stage plans with guns like this, you really are focusing on when your next reload's going to be. When I'm stage planning, I'm not really concerned about overall round count or like how am I going to smoothly transition from this position to the next. It's basically like, okay, I'm going to reload on this array, and then when's my next array to reload on? Oh, that's always fun. And like I said, this gun is in 10mm auto, and even training ball ammunition for this is pretty hefty. The stuff I'm bringing, it's S&B, it's about 200 power factor, which again, minimum for USPSA is 165 for major. And shooting this gun predictively is like shooting a battleship predictively. Grip and sights are really important with this crazy thing. So like if I'm shooting my carry optic setup and I'm doing some really fast stuff where I'm shooting like open targets, super close, super predictive, I press the trigger on my Glock and it's basically immediately back into position. I can just send another round out or as many as I want and just spam. This thing, I press the trigger, it goes off and I send a 16-inch naval shell downrange, and then gun feels like it's in the air for 5 seconds, even though I'm gripping this thing for dear life. And then it finally drops back down and I can press off another round. Really cannot shoot this thing as fast as a modern carry optic setup. I mean, I know that's stating the obvious, but I just have to bring that up. For equipment that I'm using, I have this cool Safariland holster. This is actually made for a Smith & Wesson 4566 TSW, which is the same frame size as this gun. It just has a light and a rail. So all I had to do was make some quick mods, and it fits this gun perfectly, which is great. So, like, I don't have to hunt down a holster for a super rare gun, and I can just use something that has the same frame size. Again, I'm running 6 mags. Well, I'm getting a 7th, hopefully soon, from a local source in S-Tac Kiwi single stack pouches. This is about the same capacity as my carry optics rig, which is kind of funny. Not ideal for a match like Barry Steel Open. So to give you an idea how Barry's works, like in terms of round count and capacity, there's 3 different types of stages. The first kind of stage is basically like SCSA Steel Challenge, where you're stationary and you're drawing and shooting a few targets as fast as you can in strings. And then they have like a USPSA mid-course style of stage where about 20 to 30 targets with some movement running. Basically your average like USPSA stage, just with all steel instead of paper. And then finally, the third kind is I call them the target saturation stages, where they give you 50 to 80 targets in a par time and say, shoot as many of these things as you can, which I do not expect to do well on those stages with this gun.